Today we continue on with our NHL offseason review series, and we're still in the Central Division. Today we analyze the Nashville Predators. What were their offseason objectives? Who went in? Who went out? Will they be a better team going into next season? We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we're continuing on with our NHL offseason review series, and today we're analyzing the objectives and what actually took place here for the Nashville Predators. So what were they trying to do? Did they accomplish it? Who's no longer with the team? Who's the new players on the team? And are they getting better moving forward? So let's first up take a look at what their objectives were. So clearly, I think David Poile had a plan going into this offseason that he wanted to do a fairly significant shakeup. I'm not sure he would call it a rebuild. I mean, it's sort of a rebuild, but it's almost more of a retool, given the fact that they still have a handful of fairly long-term, fairly substantial contracts that they're not going to be moving on from, largely due to necessity that they can't move them. And, you know, it's hard to do a rebuild with when you can't kind of really tear it down that way. So more of a reset in that regard, and look to shake things up and really address probably goaltending too a little bit. I mean, UC Saros was an RFA. Rinne was, you know, a UFA. What were they going to do? And get it all sorted out from there. So let's take a look and see if they've accomplished their goals and what the team now looks like. Well, starting with trades. Now, obviously, this team was not afraid to make big trades. We know David Poile has had many big-time deals over the course of his career. Still the only Preds GM in franchise history. And he once again swung for the fences here, pulling off a few significant deals. I mean, for starters, we had a three-team trade between the Nashville Predators, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Vegas Golden Knights here, with Ryan Ellis going to the Philadelphia Flyers. I mean, that's a pretty significant deal, trading a top-quality, top-pair right-shot defenseman. Like I said, I knew they were going to be making some big moves. I wasn't sure it was going to be Ellis, but we knew that was a possibility. So, of course, in that deal, Nolan Patrick ends up going to Vegas, and then, of course, the Predators end up with Cody Glass and Philippe Myers. So they get themselves, a prospect center in Cody Glass, who's kind of, I guess you could say, underwhelmed with his development a little bit in Vegas, but at the same time, they really seemed, pretty hard set on going with an older, more experienced lineup, trying to gun it for the Stanley Cup here. So, to me, I think Cody Glass can still be a quality NHL player, quality center, but he just needs a different opportunity. So we'll see if he can get that in Nashville. Philippe Myers has a ton of size, and could be, a pretty decent pickup for them as well. Not going to give you what Ryan Ellis gives you on the blue line, but he's certainly capable of playing some decent minutes for them back there, and being probably a little lower in the lineup, probably looking at ideally a second pair spot for him, maybe third is kind of your best positioning for Myers, but at least they get a pretty decent return. Philly gets a good solid defenseman. They really want to shake up their blue line. They did that. We knew Vegas was likely looking for a center. They had been linked to Nolan Patrick for some time as well. Of course, GM Kelly McCrimmon knew him well from their time with the Brandon Wheat Kings. So obviously, it's a situation where it works out for all teams. So that was one big trade here for the Predators this offseason. Of course, another significant one is they shipped off Victor Arvidsson to Los Angeles for a couple of draft picks. I mean, that kind of shook a lot of people up and kind of realized that, okay, maybe this is more of a rebuild. Because Poile won't call it that, but it's almost like more of a reset on the fly here. But Arvidsson was a 1 point and 30 goal scorer, really underrated player, but has kind of had some injuries and production's been down. They thought it was best to give him a fresh start, send him off to LA for a couple of draft picks. That's all for trades, but they did end up losing Kelly Yarncroke in expansion to the Seattle Kraken as well. Another player that's, more of a middle six kind of player, usually third line, but still a guy who can bring value and had a pretty valuable contract. So he's also gone as well, except there's no return because of the expansion process. Now, as far as other subtractions from this team, they also lost free agent forward Erik Haula, who signed with the Boston Bruins, and of course, longtime starting goaltender Pekka Rinne retires. So, as I mentioned, they had UC Saros needing a new deal as an RFA, and the future of Rinne was unknown, so they really needed to address the goaltending situation here, at least for the short term. I mean, they do have one of the top young prospect goalies in hockey in Yaroslav Askarov, the Russian netminder, who looks like a phenomenal potential starting goalie, but it's not really clear yet on exactly when he's going to be making the jump to North America and joining the Predators. So obviously with Saros being an RFA, there really wasn't any concern with him leaving, but who's he going to be working with as a goalie partner and what's the future look like between the pipes, which is something that they had to address here. So they did just that. They signed Saros. He gets a 4-year deal at $5 million per year. I think Saros was solid enough last year that it's a pretty decent contract. I know I was thinking maybe a 5-year deal or a 5 times 5 or 4.5, something to that effect, would be ideal for him. So to get a 4 times 5 deal is pretty reasonable. And they brought in David Riddick, formerly of Calgary in Toronto, to play the role of his backup on a short-term contract. So to me, hopefully Riddick can get back to being what they called Big Save Dave back in Calgary. The last year or two have been a tad frustrating for him. Hasn't been quite up to the standard he was setting there before that when he kind of earned that nickname. But at this point, at least he can provide enough insurance and hopefully, enough games for Saros to get a break, and they can have a solid tandem between the pipes here. Like I said, there's no point in inking anybody long-term with Askarov here in the future, just a matter of when he makes the jump. Otherwise, they did bring back some of their own players, but we didn't really see much more out of the Predators. Free agency was fairly quiet in that regard. They re-signed Ben Harper, another short-term contract, a big rangy defenseman who can be a third pair, 6'7" kind of guy. Still has a role there. They brought back Mikael Granlund, except this time, instead of getting him on a 1-year deal, they signed him a little bit longer term. He gets a 4 times $5 million contract as well, so, obviously pretty good value in Granlund. And they re-upped RFA defenseman Dante Fabro on a 2-year contract here as well. So for the most part, the Predators made a few changes via trade, lost a player in expansion, and for the most part here, they didn't really bring in much besides Riddick. So obviously, do they have unfinished business? They absolutely do. But before we talk about their unfinished business and where this team looks like now, going into the season, if they're better or not, we do need to pause for a moment and acknowledge our channel sponsor, Exter Smart Wallets. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Exter. Forbes calls Exter the most successful smart wallet brand in the world. They certainly have high-quality products, high-grade leather. You can put all your cards in your wallet with RFID protection, and you can track it worldwide. That's the best part. You don't have to worry about losing your wallet and not being able to track it down. They have a great selection of products to choose from here, a variety of colors and styles, something to surely help for everyone. As you can see in the demonstration here for the product I have, this is a beautiful packaging, high quality. When you open it up, you get a high quality wallet with lots of slots for your cards. You have yourself a money clip if you want to carry cash on you here as well. And certainly, as you can see, the quality is outstanding. And here you can see the switch where you can help open up your cards. You just one little click and boom, everything fans out right in front of you. Easy to access. Your cards are protected. And here's the back where you have yet another slot. A terrific overall product, and I can't recommend these enough. Exter ships worldwide, and you can check out the link down below in the description as well as the pinned comment to buy yours today. So thanks very much for watching that promotional content. I do greatly appreciate it. There will be a link down below in the top of the pinned comment here as well, with a direct link to take you to check out their products if you're interested in doing so. Now, the unfinished business for the Predators, well, it's hard to say if they're going to be able to accomplish this unfinished business or not, because it's kind of a tall order here. But I know David Poile has made it known to other NHL teams. There was lots of rumors through the rumor mill leaked between other teams, agents, NHL insiders talking about the fact that both top centers, Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene, are both available for trade if they can come to an agreement with the Predators. They were also both exposed in expansion. The only problem is that there's not really much of any interest. So they're both making $8 million. They each have a fair bit of time left on their contracts. Duchene's got 1 extra year. But still, they were hoping to probably move one of those contracts, and there's just no takers. I mean, it's a lot of money, and it's a lot to ask. So to me, they're still very much open to making a trade involving one of those players. If they're going to retain salary, they'd probably prefer to do it on Johansson, where it's 1 year shorter, but it wouldn't be something they'd be able to retain a lot on because it's a flat cap. They have their own issues to deal with. And at the same time, though, without retaining money, it's just really hard to imagine how they could stand any chance to get out of it without adding a bunch of sweeteners. And if they have to add, a couple of extra assets to entice the team to do it, then they're kind of making themselves weaker at the same time, because really the Preds don't have, besides Askarov, there's not a ton of really exciting prospects to look forward to, or you don't want to give up too many of your higher picks, especially if you're thinking you might struggle a little bit more than you have in past years, you might be picking a little higher. Like, it's tough to do. So they're kind of semi-stuck with those contracts, if you will. Now, one other piece of unfinished business they do have to do as well, and it shouldn't be an issue, but they do have RFA Eli Tolvanen, who also needs a new deal. That's about the only other piece of business that we can kind of bank on, at least expecting from the Predators before the training camp and season gets underway. They're likely going to sign him to a short-term 1 or 2 year contract, would be my guess. He came in with a lot of fanfare, a lot of hype. Took a really slow approach here to getting going. Like, the first couple of years were kind of tough on Tolvanen. He had a hard time getting adjusted, spent a lot of time in the American Hockey League. This past year, he saw a lot more NHL time and is starting to build on that. So he could be a guy that might be poised to be maybe even a breakout player this year for the Preds if he can get the right role and the right line mates. But he's certainly a guy that needs to be signed, but it's not really to anything substantial here for the Predators. So with all that being said, are they a better team going into this upcoming season? Are they going to be the same or worse? Well, really, if you look at it, to me, goaltending theoretically should be about the same because Saros carried the workload. He's still there, should be able to build upon last season. So obviously, to me, you're not substantially different that way. Your blue line is a little bit weaker, though. Ryan Ellis was a big piece. He's no longer there. You still have Yossi. You still have Ekholm. You brought in Philippe Myers in that trade. You're still going to have a decent blue line, but without Ellis, I don't think we can say it's better, at least not today. Now, in the forward group, there's really not a lot of change. So besides the guys that exited, they really haven't brought anything in to replace them. So you're looking at younger, less experienced players. I don't see how we can say that the Nashville Predators are going to be a better team for the coming season. I think they'll still be a decent team. I don't see them necessarily being bottom feeders or anything like that, but I think it's fair to say that they are a weaker team. The subtractions just outweigh the additions. There's not much there. Now, will they be able to pull off something more to add to this group before we get to the season? It's possible, but if not, I see them likely missing the playoffs, likely being closer to the bottom than the top of the division, and certainly being a weaker team for the upcoming year. So let me know what your thoughts are on the Preds for the year, what the kind of offseason they've had. Do you like their moves? And what do you see, in your opinion, for them going into the upcoming year? Are they better? Are they going to be worse? Let me know what you think down below. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.